Well, hello! Such excitement today for another new product. It's the Taranis X Lite. I've actually had this a little while, but of course one thing you have to do with the X Lite before you can do anything is go out and buy a couple of batteries. These are 18500 with flat tops. Now the 18650s, everywhere you can buy those corner shops. These are a little bit harder to come by. Found them on eBay, wasn't too expensive, like £12 for two. And then picked up a charger, which was another like £3 or £4. So not too bad. So let's see what's inside the box. And you get a very nice case, which is fantastic because my other radio, I bought a case to put it in so it could go in a backpack rather than the sort of the aluminium case I first had. And what you get in here is this lot. Nicely protected with this cover, and it's in this bag. And you'll see it's got these little gimbal protectors here, which are pretty cool. And yeah, it's a nice moulded bag like that, so they're going really nicely. You've also got these little accessories. It's a little bit weird, it's not what I was expecting. It's kind of half a screw and some little rubber bits. Now I had a look at the instructions and it said there should be a long screw and a short screw, because you will notice this comes with both sticks sprung to the centre, and you're supposed to use this long screw and short screw to actually go in these holes in the back and change it. But in my one, I can see I've got two screws that are installed, which presumably I have to take out and sort out the gimbals there. So box wise, radio, accessories, which may or may not include the screws, some fairly brief instructions, a sheet of stickers, and these pretty nifty gimbal protectors. So what's interesting about the X Lite is it is a real departure from your standard RC controller that's been around for like a decade, and they really haven't changed form factor all that much. They've just got a little bit flashy on the screens and stuff. So you know, you've got to think this is the sort of video game generation. This is an Xbox controller, a little bit bigger, but you know, the idea that you've got the easy transferable people that have grown up on these sorts of controllers transferring over very easily to one of these with slightly different sticks and stuff. So one thing it doesn't come with, which you'll need to get really to get anything out of this radio, is an SD card. There's the little slot there. There's at the bottom the USB port, an S port. I think that's a headphone socket. So what we need to do first off is set this up for mode 2, because at the moment, obviously, a bit hopeless on my throttle there. So to do this, we're going to need to go down in close up and sort that out. So join me down for close up mode and we'll go through that. Okay, welcome to Close Up Land. So let's get on and install the things we need to do, starting with the batteries. So these things just twist off. I just noticed I got a little tiny bit of cosmetic damage on this one where the coatings come off. It's not a big deal, but, and I'm not sure if it happened to me or it came like this. Anyway, these go in positive side inwards. And the SD card, a little bit misleading because it's kind of got this upper and lower bit. It is the lower bit, and it's on a sprung mechanism, so you should get it. The card image to use is the one for the QX7. It's the same size screen, and if we now turn it on,
welcome to OpenTX.
Got my normal Sophie voice pad there, and it's quite a nice screen,
Switch warning.
I have to say. It's obviously a lot smaller than the normal one, but it's very clear, very bright, not a problem there. So yeah, next problem is these sticks. Obviously I want my throttle stick to be a proper mode 2 stick. Turn it off. Now, as I said before, I've noticed I've got a screw there and the screw there, which is just sitting there, and I had nothing appropriate, it would seem, in the bag. So I'm thinking I need to take this screw out and put it in this side and then tighten up and see what happens. So let's try that first. These are 2mm hex screws by the looks of it. Oh, that's not so bad. It is the same one as we've got there. That is the short screw, I think. Let's just check this one is the right one. They're both short screws. Well, given those were both the same size, I'm figuring this single one in the bag must be the long screw. And the long screw has to go in the inside hole, these two, and for the throttle stick, of course, it's going to be this one there. So let's get the right side, which is there. Let's see what happens. I'm just seeing if anything's happening to the stick yet, and it's not. Oh, it's getting less springy. Aha. I can only describe that as a little bit flaccid. There's a tiny little bit of spring in it, but not much. Now we need to put the small screw in the hole next to it to give it some tension. So, screw in there. I've kind of got one finger on the stick just to see when I can feel anything. That's a little bit stiff at the moment. Yeah, I think that feels about right. It's not on a ratchet or anything. That's quite light now. You'll feel the throws a little bit different than your regular stick, so it's a little bit different there, but I think it'd be interesting to look at. Now, after you've adjusted these, you've got these little holes here for the screws. You can, if you like, use these little cut-offs to poke in there to make it all neat. I'm going to keep it off for now, just in case I need to make any more adjustments. It's not a massive deal, but they're there just in case you need them. So, as you might expect, the controls are a little bit different. You can go through the normal sort of menus you have by going down and up. If you go left and hold, you go to the radio setup. Now I've set the date and time. I found that, and obviously you can change the beeps here and stuff. I found that my radio was set to mode 2. So yeah, my mode is 2, so that was set, although the channel order is wrong for me. So I want EATR. EATR. Presumably that's normal mode 2, this is what I've always flown. And then you've got exit key is that one underneath. So yeah, it's a little bit different from that point of view. If we go and hold right, that's the same as sort of doing enter. And then you can go through these models as normal. Yeah, if you then go into it, you can't just then press left or right to go along. You have to either go back up to the top and then page over, or if you're down here you can press exit and then page over. But the rest of it seems to be you know, pretty much as you'd expect there. All the normal programming functions. This came out of the box running 222, I think. I will just double check that. Yeah, 222. So it's up to date, pretty good version. Okay, so this D-pad, which you know I keep wanting to play Super Mario with, works for the trims. As it is, the left-right will trim this stick, which I would, you know, call aileron, but I suppose you might want to call roll.
Trim center.
And up and down will do your pitch stick. So if you want to tune or trim your less likely throttle, you hold this one, which is the shift, and then you can do the other ones, should you want to.
Trim center. Trim center.
So that's okay. It's just a little bit of getting used to with the actual movement of it. As soon as we're into the programming side of things, I think we'll be fine. I guess obviously set things up slightly differently. You've got these. Let's have a look, because I would normally have an arm switch, which I figure is going to be this small one. I'd have a three-way mode switch there, and I'd have going in and out of air mode on this side. What do I do on that side? It might be easy to say arm, air mode. I mean, I really wouldn't use this one because it would be acro, horizon, beeper. So it'd be the case of switching this into arm mode and off. Got these sliders as well. I'm not sure quite what I'm using them for on a little mini quad, but of course you can fly what you like with this thing. Yeah, I'm gonna delete this model and go through and just set one up from scratch, see how it feels, and then we can go out and fly it and see how the range thing works. When I set the subtrims in Betaflight on the X Lite, I was amazed by the lack of jitter there. You can see as I move the sticks, they just return central and it's spot on, which is fantastic. And here's the same screen with the receiver bound to my
X9D, and it's not bad. There's like just one or two USECs. If I sort of move it around, you can see it sometimes comes back perfectly and sometimes doesn't. Certainly within normal parameters, but you can see the difference on the X Lite. It was just absolutely dead still.
Well, hi everybody and welcome back to the field. I've got my former Nebula 230 and it's got quite handily on it an external X4R. Now, the reason I've got that is so I can try a couple of transmitters out. Over here we've got my tried and tested FrSky Taranis X9R, the original one, and it works fine, and I'm interested to check the other one out for two reasons. On the normal Taranis you've got this antenna and we can hold it in our arms and we can have that antenna pointing just as we want. So on the X Lite, which as you know looks rather like an Xbox controller, we don't have that. I mean, I assume there's an antenna pointing straight up. We've also got this external antenna here. We can take that off and we can fit one. But this isn't a range test as much. I just wanted to find out if you could use this happily without having to fit an external antenna, which I hope you can because I didn't bring one. So I've got a duplicate of the model set up in here, so I can fly them both the same, and I've got RSSI which sends itself back to the radio to tell me the signal strength. So not flying far, only out there, which is about 300 meters, just to find out if there's a difference. And of course I'll be getting a feel for how it is on the original Taranis and then coming back and seeing how these sticks feel, just to give myself an idea of what it's like. Let's get going.
Okay, so we're off flying first with the X9D, and you can see the antenna nice and upright. And what I'm just going to do is fly to the end of the field here and keep an eye on the RSSI. Now, it's not really important to say, oh, that RSSI is a bit low to this receiver. It's just basically a comparison. So that is sort of just under 50 in its worst point. I think I saw 46, but it's around the 50 mark. So let's bring that in. And I've now swapped over to the little X Lite, fiddling with the switches there, and let's go out and try it again. So there's one thing here I did, and that was I went a little bit higher, but I think that the general gist of what the figure is okay. I still went sort of between the tree and around it. And again, it dropped to 48 and it was around the 50. So that's pretty consistent, I think. So, of course, after doing that little range test, I wanted to get the gist of how it felt. So I just took it around for a general fly. And one of the things I noticed straight away is I thought my battery was going down very quickly. And what this turned out to be was, it's difficult to explain, but if you've sort of got this resting point on your thumb where you think the midpoint of the throttle is, it's in a different place, or felt like it was in a different place here. So where I think I'm going, you know, fast enough just to keep it in the air hovering, I'm actually going a bit faster than I want to be. So that's just a case of sort of getting used to things. And it was kind of the same when doing a roll here. You saw that one came out all wrong because although the timing's the same, the stick is different, and I'm just sort of practicing going around and understanding how it works. It feels like it's a little bit more sensitive because the stick movement is slightly less, but this is something you can get used to in just a couple of packs. So I moved fields after the LiPo there and took a couple of packs out in this smaller field where I felt it would be more useful for trying to fly around a sort of more limited space to see how it felt then. And to be fair, I think I was getting used to it pretty quickly. It started to feel a little bit more natural. I suppose the question is, how easy will it be to transfer between radios? Will you need this couple of batteries every time you do it, or all the fingers just start knowing how to adjust for what you're actually doing? But yeah, despite some inaccuracy still in some of the maneuvers, this started to feel pretty good. It's kind of a little bit like you've just subtly changed the rates and everything feels just a little bit different, but yeah, after a while your thumbs get into the idea of what you're trying to do. It wasn't helped by the fact that the camera on this quad had managed to come a little bit loose, so every time I did some sort of high throttle maneuver, the camera would slightly point downwards and the props would start appearing more in the centre of the screen, which was a pain. I also managed to have a decent crash here where I went under some and around the back of some trees and then tried to get up this gap and sort of hit a branch and then tried to power out of it and just ended up in a worse position. I took the cover of the skew off, but everything else was fine.
Gotta say, pretty impressed with this. The accuracy of the gimbals, just watching it in Betaflight, is amazing compared to my normal Taranis. The only thing to mention is, of course, it takes just a little while to get used to those gimbals, especially the throttle, because me thinking this is my neutral point because that's where my thumb's used to resting, equals it's a bit higher on this radio. So that's one thing to think about. I mean, it would be much cooler if, of course, they had the batteries available and it sort of, you know, came with batteries, came with an SD card. That would be quite cool. But I think the screen is wonderful for the size, really clear. The speaker's much better than my old X9D, and it's, you know, it's nice to hold in your hand. I'm not a pincher, so I'm not sure how that works. Fun wise, I talked to my friend NJ Tech, who was talking about trying different length sticks out. He found that was the key for him with pinching, and one of his friends who was a thumber also found it quite useful, so that might be worthwhile. I'll be using this in the next bunch of reviews just to really get out there and get some decent stick time on it, just to see what else happens. Because everything else is just like a Taranis. You've got slightly less switches, of course, but you've got plenty to fly quads with, and you've got a decent amount of range here. I've actually got one of the FrSky 5 dBi gain antennas, which some people have used and modified the original Taranis for, but I don't really feel it's needed. But it might be interesting to test against it. So yeah, I'll be doing some more flying on this one, so by all means check some more out, ask some questions, and I'll see if I can answer them. In the meantime, thanks very much to Gearbest, because they supplied this for review, and of course links will be down below so you can check it out for yourself. Expect some more from this, and I hope that's helpful. I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.
Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.